we got a great panel coming up right now. This is going to be a fun one here. Coming up on the stage from Halloween 3, you got Stacey Nelkin, Tom Atkins, Tommy Lee Wallace, and the guy with one of the coolest names ever, Dick Warlock. Come on, let's make some noise for these guys. Here we go! So you guys, if you've never been here before, I want to make sure you guys know there is a live mic up here in the front. If you have questions, do not be shy, do not be afraid, and do not hesitate to line up here. We're going to talk like we're old friends up here on the stage, and we're just going to hang out. And if you guys decide you want to come and be a part of our little circle up here and ask a question, then by all means, we want you to do it. And anybody that asks a question, when you're done, I want you to go meet me over here in my booth. I have something to give you, because I know it's tough to get up here in front of everybody and have all eyes on you. But for now, let's have all eyes on these four lovely individuals. So first to Dick. I want to go to Dick Warlock first. So Dick, you were one of the only people really to get to experience Michael Myers in So the question was, I stopped when you had the ice because I didn't want to make you choke over there. So you got to experience Michael Myers in episode 2, and you got to also experience episode 3, which was completely going in an absolutely different direction. What was your feeling about being able to see both sides of that Halloween coin?
They always get these acting questions to me, and I'm not an actor, right? They don't want to get into it and all, but they were totally different, except that I didn't have to talk to either one of them, which was a treat for me because I got terrible stage fright. Can't sing, can't talk, can't remember lines. And the question again was, what was it?
So, I mean, one of them, you're part of the canon of the serial killer, and then you got to also see the other side, which was the sci-fi kind of a guy. Yeah, so you got to see both sides of the coin. So did you feel like I have to go to a different place now because this is like a whole different movie?
Well, I don't know that there was a distinct difference. I mean, in one you're sticking a needle in somebody's head and you're hanging them up and sticking them in the back and so on. And in the other one, what are you doing in that one? You're killing people. It's the same thing, so I didn't really detect any difference at all. If that makes sense to you. And if it does, applaud a little. If it doesn't, don't say anything.
Well, thank you for the answer. All right, so to Mr. Atkins. So this movie was obviously made many decades ago.
What movie?
Halloween 3.
Yes.
So if that movie was to be made in this day and age, would you have a different approach to who your character is? The things that he could get away with at that time, the things he could say, the things he could do. Would you approach that character differently if that movie was filmed with the same script in 2023?
Absolutely not. I would do it exactly the same as I did it back then. I don't care what the norms are now as opposed to then. We made the movie when we made it, and I thought it worked pretty good. It's a good film. It still holds up. It's fun to watch. And we all had a great time doing it. We're just actors, It's not a big deal. And Tommy wrote a wonderful script, so we were happy. Yeah. And it was a job. Yeah. Somebody invited me to do a job and star in the movie, so I was thrilled.
So Tommy, what was the challenge like for you writing Halloween 3, knowing, hey, I get to write a Halloween movie, I get to write 3, but I get to write it doesn't even have anything to do with the first one, or the first two. Did you enjoy being able to try and take that offshoot, or were you like, man, I really wanted to have the, have the guy, have the mask, have the shape in my movie?
Well, as most everybody here probably already understands, the credit went to me as writer, but it's a bogus credit. There are 3 writers on Halloween 3. The script, the original script was commissioned for Nigel Neal to write, and he did a great job. It was an interesting script. It was a little bit locked in a peculiar time period because Nigel is truly one of the geniuses of British television, especially in the 1950s. And unfortunately, the script, although it was brilliant in places, it felt like a 1950s British television psychodrama. And so John Carpenter did a pass, uncredited, and then I did a pass after that, rewriting John. And ultimately, Nigel was not happy with what we came up with, and he dropped his name off. John traditionally doesn't put his name on a script he writes in that capacity, as in this case, he was one of the producers. So there you have a bogus credit, and the idea of writing it was not something that I was hired on to direct the movie. The rewriting of the movie was a chore, not a gig. It was a necessity, and I had to do it real fast. But John and I both had some ideas that we thought would make it more palatable for a U.S. audience, and that's the evolution of the script. I thought we did pretty well. I've written a book that just came out last fall, which you can get on Amazon, and if you come by my table, you can see it. And it explains in great detail about the ins and outs of writing that script. And I'm proud of it, but it has a few flaws in it, which we can go into later.
All right, so I've got a question for Stacey, then we're going to get to these guys and these ladies that are lined up here for us. Okay, so obviously you guys are here, you've seen the movie, so there's not going to be any spoilers, and it's 41 years later, so I'm not too worried about spoilers. So your character at the end of the movie is shown to be an android. Do you believe that the real character of Ellie survived and she was elsewhere, or do you think that actually was her, because there's no real explanation of that?
Oh, very interesting. So that means if she really did survive, if we did a sequel, I could be in it, right? As opposed to, because no, I kind of thought that was it. Lost my head, lost my arm, lost my possibility to be in the sequel. So
you never know. He's over here really smiling. He's no, they're smiling because they're like, you never know, because there's all these androids. Where are the rest of the bodies at? You never
great
know.
point. Great point. Yeah.
He's enjoying the sign language. All right, so we're going to go here to the audience questions. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Shad, and you stole my question. I was going to ask for Stacey, so I'll jump on to the second one.
Oh, sorry about that, man.
That's all right.
My bad.
How long after the movie was done did it take to get the Silver Shamrock song out of your head?
Was that for me or
For anyone.
Oh,
It's still in my
Tom
head.
said we should all sing.
I dreamed it up and recorded it myself, and it's never out of my head.
Never. The second I hear it, it goes all day.
Days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 3 more days till Halloween. Silver Shamrock.
Oh, that was great. All right, thanks a lot, man. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Thomas, and I was wondering, did you guys think that this movie would be a big cult following after it came out?
Well, for me, it was the last thing in the world I ever thought, and I think it's the last thing any of us thought. Kind of came and went, and this is all kind of surreal and beautiful and magical and really unexpected.
And it's thanks to you people, all you wonderful fans, that this thing has just kept growing and growing. I was telling somebody today, every one of these conventions I come to, and it might be 5 a year, I see at least 6 or 7 new products for Halloween 3. Posters, different kind of posters, and that's extraordinary. I don't see that for any other film, but that, I don't know what is making it keep growing and growing and growing. But we're appreciative.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. All right, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, my name is Anna, and I know you said that you're kind of a fake credit for writing it, but I think it still applies because you clearly had input. I always wondered if Kooky Spooks had any kind of influence on the movie, because I remember in 1979, a costume concept came out called Kooky Spooks, where they had these inflatable heads that you just wore, and I remember it had a dorky, goofy ad song that would play incessantly. The commercial was on constantly, and I remember every single friend had to have one of these Kooky Spooks. It was like if you didn't have that costume, you were a loser, and it was either a bat, a witch, a goblin, and it was always like it's the orange, the green, the black, the same look of the, you know, the certain silver shamrock hats, the heads, the masks, and the same goofy ad. And it was like when the movie came out, all I could think of was like, I never want a Kooky Spook costume ever in my life. And I was wondering if you knew about that costume and if you used any of that ad campaign concept in the movie.
Was this a regional thing? Or where were
All over the United States. It was everywhere. And a lot of people don't remember it, but I remember because I wanted one at the time. And then the movie came out and I was like, I don't want one anymore.
I can honestly say I'd never heard of it before. However, it's very possible Nigel Neal knew about it and worked it into the story. That's possible.
Yeah, because if you look it up, it's Kooky Spook spelled with a K, and it's the same, the tune and everything, and just constant commercials, and it was so connected with that. That's why I enjoyed the movie so much, and I told my son about it, and he was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's very similar. So, all right, I always wanted to know. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, next up, what's your name? What is your question?
My name is Mark, and this is a question for any of you guys. The thoughts from the actors on, hey, this is Halloween, but there's no Michael Myers. Why are we calling it Halloween? Did you guys kind of think about that when you were looking at the script and going, hey, where's Michael?
That's the paradox of Halloween 3. This movie, if it had, been written and presented and we'd gone out looking for support for a movie called Season of the Witch, the odds would have been against it. It was automatically getting made if it was called Halloween 3. And to me, the only colossal mistake we made was not advertising it properly.
Still a great movie.
Thank you.
So before we go to the next question, so what do you think was you said that the advertising you didn't think was advertised properly. What would you have changed in the advertising for the movie to hopefully make it have a better critical reception?
The table needed to be set. You have Halloween, and then you have a true sequel with a Roman numeral after it called Halloween 2, starring The Shape, Jamie Lee Curtis, etc. Now you come out Halloween with a Roman numeral 3, and you're not going to explain that, hey, you know what? We're going to try something completely different this year, and it's going to lead to an anthology that goes on forever with a different Halloween theme every year. That's a brilliant idea. But because there was already a Halloween 2, we set up a false expectation. Nobody at Universal thought of that. The producers didn't think of it. I didn't think of it. The advertising department didn't think of it. It was totally stupid. You know, the ads were intriguing, but they were also ambiguous as to the content. And way up in the corner, this little tiny ribbon that said, all new. Like, what does that mean? Of course it's all new. So we didn't do a good job of setting the table, and we paid for it. It's just unbelievable that 40 years later, and this is in answer to an earlier question, it's gone the extremes. We knew we'd made a good movie, and we thought it would go out and do a good movie's business, meaning at least as good as Halloween 2. But we created our own backlash, which is the subtitle of my book, Where the Hell's Michael Myers? That was the remark in the theaters at the time by many, many people who went expecting something different. And so the contrast, it was perceived, although it actually did really well in its first few weekends, it was perceived as some sort of failure. And it has gone in 40 years to being this unbelievable phenomenon. Tommy is right. Every day somebody's walking by today with a purse that has a television set with the magic pumpkin in there. And it's like, wow, I want one of those. So.
All right, that's great. All right, great answer, and thank you for the question. Come on up, next person. What is your name? What is the question?
My name's Daniel. I've already met Mr. Warlock, Mr. Wallace. How does it feel being vindicated after all these years? You're talking about the backlash from Where's Michael? And I know that the latest movie that came out got a lot of hate. How does it feel knowing that this movie has its own following, that people genuinely enjoy this awesome movie that y'all have made? And I want to finish that by saying, I want to thank all of you for the memories, because I grew up with y'all. I've watched Mr. Warlock in many different films. Mr. Wallace, your work, Mr. Atkins, I mean, come on. None of the Creeps, I mean, The Fog, I mean, you're just legends, but I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was sitting here. First of all, thank you very much for the compliments to all of us. I really don't know why I'm sitting here. In the case of Halloween, Michael Myers was really a fantastic figure, I thought, you know, and I was so fortunate to get the job. And does anyone here know how I got that job? Well, I'll tell you, if they don't mind waiting. I worked on Escape from New York, Dublin for Kurt Russell and what have you. And when I got finished with the movie, I got a call from Deborah Hill. Y'all know who she is, right? Great lady. She wanted me to coordinate this little movie they were doing. So I went over to her office, met her. I hadn't seen Halloween, so I had no idea about that series or the thing. She explained it to me and said, this guy wears a mask, he gets a little nuts. So she said, I want you to go down the hall and meet the director. So, am I boring you yet?
No, absolutely.
I went down, I get to the office prior to his office. And I look in there, and on the desk, and that's all that was there, a desk, a chair, and the mask. So I picked the mask up. I put the mask on, and I walk to his door, and I stand there and look at him. And I just stared, and he said, who are you? He said, who the hell are you? I started laughing when I took the mask off. I introduced myself at a distance and then walked over to his desk and we had our meeting. He said, yeah, I don't care if you, oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself. As I turned to leave, I had the mask in my hand, I turned back to him and I said, is there any reason I can't play this guy? He looked me up and down and he says, I don't care, Deborah doesn't care. I didn't realize that I was 6-foot Nick Castle had just done that guy. Anyway, he said, "Oh, I don't care." So I walked down the hallway and I said, "Listen, Rick doesn't care if I play him. What do you think?" She says, "I don't care as long as he agrees." So that's how I got that job. You know, that was different than the assassin. I'm still not sure how I got the job as the android guy in this movie, unless it was him. I'm not.
Now he knows.
They're totally different guys, but yet they're the same. You know, they don't speak; they just kill people. You know, and there was a whole lot like us, but I got the credit, and really I shouldn't be here with these fine people because I'm not in their league or their caliber at all. But I'm very grateful for you folks for inviting me along for the ride with the rest of them. So thank you very much.
So hey, before we continue, I just want to go back a little quick. Do you think that Dick Warlock down here needs to be so humble, or do you think he is in the league with everyone else up here? Come on, let's give a big round of applause. No need to be that humble. Come on. All right, next up, what's your name? What is your question?
Hi, my name is Melanie. I met Dick yesterday, me and my sister. My question is for Dick. My question is, could you kind of talk about how you put the mask on and you stood in the doorway and was messing with the guy? Did you ever do that during the movie, like when you were just messing around with the other crews and just hiding and coming out and scaring them and stuff like that?
No, I didn't. But what I did do was when the movie came out in the local neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley out in California, my girlfriend then and my fiance, we went to the drive-in theater and I had the whole rig on because they gave it to me after the movie was over. So about halfway through the movie, she's running through the drive-in theater and I'm chasing her, walking after her. And believe it or not, there was not one response that I know of. I went through the concession stand area and the whole thing, and not one. Hey, look, there you go. Nothing. And I thought, well, I'll never do that again. A flop at doing Myers.
Thank you so much, and thank you all of you for being here.
All right, next up, what is your name? What is the question?
Hello, my name is Quentin, and my question is for Tommy, but before I get to it, I wanted to... Everybody should give Dick Warlock a round of applause for being the greatest Michael Myers of all time. I really got a glimpse of the franchise, and it just scared the crap out of me, and ever since I've just been in love with it, so thank you so much. But anyway, Tommy, I wanted to ask for Halloween 3, did you have any direct, it's kind of similar to the question I was asked earlier, but what gave you the idea for the masks in particular, like it being a pumpkin, a skull, and a witch?
The Nigel Neal script talked about 3 masks, but it gave no description. So we're doing a pretty low-budget movie there, although it was a giant budget next to the original Halloween. Yeah. I think we had $2.5 million.
That's great.
But that doesn't go very far when your movie is more ambitious, as Halloween 3 was, with the masks and the factory and the da-da-da-da-da. It's a little different than one guy chasing some people around with a knife. More ambitious, so Deborah was watching the pennies very closely. She had already gotten acquainted with Don Post, the mask maker, on Halloween 2. They used some of my masks, and they also manufactured, Don Post made one. I spoke to him on the phone about this, so there's a lot of controversy and confusion over which mask was used when and so forth. He declares he made some, so I assume they were kind of interchanged according to the scene or whatever. Anyway, point being, Deborah knew about Don, and so she first turned to him. The skull was already on his shelf as an existing mask. The the witch was in the works before we came along. It was something he'd been thinking about because Don had thought about expanding his line and getting a little bit bigger and more ambitious. So this represented, our movie represented a kind of synergistic opportunity for him, win-win. And Deborah very cleverly said, all right, let's make a deal. The masks, you make us some masks, and you can have the rights to the masks after the fact, if we can have them all for free. Good deal all the way around. That's really great producing. So, in the end, I immediately said, skull mask for sure. How about that witch mask? And let's come up with one of our own. We could afford that to design from scratch. And that's where the pumpkin came from.
Nice. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a lot. Next one up. What's your name? What you got for him?
Hi, my name is Caleb. I just want to say thank you all for doing this panel. It's really a pleasure to listen to all of you. I have a question specifically for Mr. Wallace, though. And I want to ask because I feel like it doesn't get talked about a lot, but I'm a huge fan of the Twilight Zone remake in the 80s. Similar to Halloween 3, I think it's amazing, but I don't think people talk about it a lot. But yeah, I love that series. My question for you specifically is, what was it like working on something that was a remake of something so iconic? And are you a fan of the original series? Do you have a favorite episode?
We're talking about the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And the new Twilight Zone in the 80s.
Yes.
Yes.
Specifically.
I was a real enthusiast of the original Rod Serling Twilight Zone. Loved it. And it was a thrill to be part of the new Twilight Zone. They immediately designed themselves into a strange corner because they allowed different episodes to be different lengths, which aesthetically is brilliant, but very hard to mash into a TV format. So that was a big problem. But everybody was enthusiastic and gung-ho, and it was kind of cutting-edge TV at the time. And we did remake a few of the originals, and then of course Harlan Ellison, the great sci-fi writer, was a part of the team, and he was coming up with new episodes, and just a thrill all the way around.
I'm sure. I think Dreams Are for Sale is up there with the original. I think it's one of the best. If anyone hasn't seen that, you should watch it.
Thank you. Dreams for Sale was a little, it was actually very short, little fiction about a machine you could go into and go off to whatever fantasy you wanted.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask a quick question, and then we're going to back here. So this is for Stacey and Tom. So, Stacey, if you go back and look at that movie, pretty much every time you turn the corner, you were right about something, and you weren't listened to by this guy. So, did you guys ever have a conversation on set about why is it that if he would have listened to you one time, that maybe none of this mess would have happened for either one of you?
That's a great question. I say the same thing to my husband today. So, I think that goes across the board, right, women? The guys, we know, the guys don't listen. Told you, honey. See, I was right. So, that's a great question. We never actually had that conversation. Maybe we will now after this.
I don't know what conversation.
Did we have a conversation about how everything I told you as an Ellie turned out to be right, and you, as the guy, were willing to.
You mean I wasn't doing the right things? You told me all the right things. My wife now tells me all the right things, and I admitted to her that, honey, you are always right. I'm sorry I didn't pay more attention to you when I was doing that. I think it was the 6-packs. It was all the beer and yeah.
So you out here in the audience are now, you guys just witnessed an apology 41 years in the making.
I'm so sorry. Oh, Ellie, my heart's broken. I'm sorry.
All right. With that being said, next up in the line, what is your name? Thanks for the question. And what is that question?
My name is Chris. Chris. Thank you all for being here. And this is for Tommy Lee Wallace. We know that you did the voice of the narrator. Who did the voice of the female voice that was the announcer for Curfew?
You're asking the Jamie Lee question.
I never knew the answer. That's why I'm asking that one.
The answer is in my book.
So I'll see you at the table. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. All right, next up, what's your name?
There's a copy of the book at the table. If you want to look it up, I'll help you find the page.
I love it. I love it. All right, next up, what's your name? What's your question, my man?
I'm Tony. I was wondering, it's kind of referencing a previous question. You guys were saying over the years that the movie has kind of, gotten a cult following and sort of, taken off. Was there ever a particular incident that happened when you guys realized, like, whoa, this thing really is something now? Like, was there something that happened at any point? Any specific thing?
I can trace it back to the first time I came to one of these, to turn it back to this audience. Sean Clark convinced me to come to one. It was in New Jersey. I didn't want to do it. I had a terribly negative vision of what one of these things might be like. Not what it is, but what it might be like. And so I was going, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's for me. Sean explained to me in simple terms, okay, you're going to be in a nice hotel. People are going to come up to you at your table and tell you you're a genius, and they're going to give you money. I thought, why not? So I went, and after 20 people came up and said they loved Halloween 3, and all those people, all those haters were full of shit, I was like, I like it here.
Thank you. Man, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right, next up, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi, I'm Bree. My question is something I love to ask people that are in iconic horror movies. First of all, thank you for being here. It's amazing for us. What are each of your favorite horror movies?
I can start things off. The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from the 50s. Best one ever.
Mine isn't. It's a horror movie to me. The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
My favorite horror movie was Bride Frankenstein from 1938, I think it was, somewhere around there. That was my favorite. And then my favorite science fiction film was 1951. The Thing with Howard Hawks. Not John's, but that one. Yeah, I love them. I told him, I have a son now, he's 33. Years ago when he was maybe 8, 9, I said, oh, here's my favorite, I want you to watch this, The Thing. And it scared the shit out of me when I saw it. And to the point where but I loved it. And I went the following week to a different community where it cost me $0.25. And I asked all the gang that we saw it the first time, you guys want to go see The Thing? You go, no, what the hell? We saw it already. I don't want to see it. But I went. And it started at 4 in the afternoon. And I knew it was going to be dark when I got out. And I thought, oh, that's not good. And it went on, they got the flying saucer shape, and they got the thing out of the flying saucer, and then they put it in the radio room, and the guy threw an electric blanket over top of it, and it started melting. And I knew what was going to come out of that. And I ran all the way home as fast as I could. Oh, it scared me. And my son saw it, and he went, it didn't frighten him at all. It didn't mean anything to him.
Does anyone here know who played the Thing in the movie he's referring to? Gunsmoke's James Arness. Oh, he did. Okay. I don't hear too well, but there we go.
I think my favorite, but also least favorite, was The Exorcist, because I saw that when it came out on the big screen, and I was maybe 13 at the time, and I couldn't sleep for 3 weeks after that. I had nightmares every night, so it kind of traumatized me for a while. So then I didn't want to watch horror films after that. I would do them, but didn't, want to watch them.
All right, thanks. Hold on for 1 second. So these last two that are in line are going to be the last two questions of the audience. I have a question to follow up on something that Tommy Lee said. So Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So the town that everything happens in Invasion of the Body Snatchers is Santa Mira. The town that everything happens in Halloween 3 is also Santa Mira. Was this an intentional nod when you wrote this? Were you intending on this to be one of the arms of the potential Halloween franchise as it went on? And do you wish that either more or less people would have picked up on that nod right there?
No, it was all pure coincidence. No, I called it Santa Mira for the obvious reason, because this is one distinction that we made at the time and we're explaining in a personal way, but not officially in an advertisement, was this is not a knife movie, this is a pod movie. And the reference, of course, comes from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the ultimate pod movie, and where the term comes from. I love that movie, and so I wove as much a little bit of tribute, if not downright Easter eggs, into it. We shot the six-pack scene is shot in Sierra Madre, which in the original Body Snatchers was the town of Santa Mira.
I love it. Thank you. All right, so we got two questions left up here. What's your name? What you got?
Hey, my name is Kyle. Love you all. This is really, really awesome. If you had an unlimited budget and you could do a sequel to Halloween 3, would you do it, and what would it maybe look like?
I guess that question is for me. No.
Nothing?
You got to understand, I love all you fans and how much you love the movie. The idea of going back and remaking a movie I already made and spending probably 18 months of my life on it, I don't think there's enough money. Really, I mean, I think that maybe the curse of being a creative person is you want to keep going forward. You don't want to just go back and stir up your old stuff.
But if you could do something just new with the same...
So a sequel to Halloween 3 in Season of the Witch. Would you do a sequel to it?
This has been suggested several times. In virtually every convention I go to, there's at least one person who has an idea for a sequel. Something involving cell phones, obviously, instead of network television, could be fun, but I don't know, it wouldn't take long before it would just be a new movie with a new title, and why bother to call it Halloween 3 again?
Thank you.
The title was a curse the first time.
All right, so last question. Come on up to the mic. What's your name? What's your question?
Hello, my name is Luna, and I'm very thankful to witness this today. My question for any of you is, what was the most challenging part that you encountered during filming of Halloween 3?
What was the most challenging part during filming of Halloween 3 for you? Yeah, what was the most challenging part for you to film during Halloween 3?
I know the most challenging part for me was easy. It's easy to say. I had a terrible cold during the time we were in Santa Mira, and seemed like it took all night to do it, and I was just exhausted. I couldn't, blowing snot, and it was terrible. And it felt like when I saw the movie, about that much got into the movie. And that was exhausting for me. That was the most challenging part for me. The acting part was easy. Playing with her was easy. Listening to Tom was easy peasy. And Dickie on the end, it was challenging to not laugh when I went into his stomach, and it felt like a bowl of unset Jell-O. Yeah.
What did you want?
That was it for me.
I think for me, one of the more challenging moments was doing the preparation for the love scene with Tom, because in those days they would take sponges and cold water, because there was no running hot water wherever we were, and the makeup artist would literally sponge every part of your body. Today they have sprays, and it's a lot quicker and a lot easier. And I get cold easily, and it was a cold morning to begin with up there. And I'm just getting this wet, cold stuff all over me, and I'm nervous enough about doing the scene. That was a challenge. Doing the scene was not as bad, but the prep was tough.
You know, every movie has its stories of challenges. Everybody thinks it's all glamorous, and everybody's sitting around munching on the hors d'oeuvres and having fun. It's generally really hard work and long hours, and often lots of funny stories, and there are certainly lots of stories about how hard work actually happens and how many challenges. And Dick will tell you it can be very dangerous, and you have to stay on your toes all the time. But Halloween 3 for me was my debut as a feature film director, and as it happens, I was among what I'll call family. I worked with most of the people on the crew at least once, and in some cases several times. And so I felt this immense support from my fellow filmmakers all up and down the line. They were rooting for one of their own. Man, that is a privileged position to be in, to have that kind of confidence and support. Deborah and John couldn't have been more effective as producers. Just the entire thing, up to and including John basically treated me the way he liked to be treated, which was total control. So he would, in times of question, he would cede that to me. That's unheard of for a first-time director. And yet there it was. So the question that you posed is a riddle to me on Halloween 3, because it was a privilege and it was just great every day.
All right, thank you so much for that question. What do you got, Dick?
I'm going to tell this story. Usually Dean Cundy, he was the director of photography on the movie. I had forgotten about this story. And usually when we do something like this, there's a stunt double for the leading lady who would be in the car with you when you're going to do this. But it was really a nothing thing. Do you remember when the car came down the road and slid just before it hit the tree? There's a telephone pole there. Do you remember that? Well, the camera crew was on this side looking back at myself, and what would have been my stunt double would happen to be this lady over here sitting next to me. I came down, and here's the telephone pole, here's the crew, and there's the slightest bit of gravel, and it's like, whoop, and we just scraped the pole and went off. Of course, we did the wreck into the tree in a later shot, but she was going to tell that story, and I thought, well, I'll tell it. Anyway, I'm so proud of her for sticking in there, and she never said a word. And I'd forgotten about the whole thing. Did you think about it often after that, or at all? No. Okay. All right.
I think about it often because for 3 or 4 crew members, we're standing there, and Dean Cundy just earlier in the evening reminded everybody about always any kind of even minor stunt. Know where you're going to bail to when something goes wrong. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. But this didn't seem like a stunt. This was just basically a car by. Here comes the car, it goes right by the camera. So we're all standing a little to the right behind the camera, safe, sound. But about 100 feet in front of this famous telephone pole, the car breaks loose on the gravel and starts fishtailing this way. Now, the situation is suddenly very different because Dick was coming in at speed, 45 or 50 miles an hour. It looked fast, and all of a sudden our futures are right in front of us with a car that we hadn't ever in a minute thought of that is going to come right here and just kill us all. And that part about Dean Cundy's safety features, know where you're going to bail to? No, we're like this. And at the last possible instant, that random telephone pole, it wasn't something we planned, just kissed the rear quarter panel and just knocked it back on course, and we went by. But our pants were not dry.
On that note, so we've actually run out of time a little bit. Thank you so much for that question. If you guys have a question that you wanted to ask that you didn't have a chance to get to the mic, or you want to go and talk to them one-on-one in the booth, these guys are all back there in the celeb area.
I want to ask something of the audience. I really appreciate you all being here. We all do. We love you fans. I want you to say hello to my dear niece, Megan Mary Elizabeth Sanchez back there, and her husband, Chuck, and her son, young Jack.
Hey. I said I'd give a shout out to Mike, but I don't exactly know where he is. But Mike, hey,